Hey everybody, Renita Young here, and this is Your Money Story. Welcome back, everybody. I've been gone for the past couple of weeks, unexpected trip, but we're here now, and we're here to welcome you to Women's History Month. Congratulations to all the women. We celebrate all of us. So today we have an amazing episode with an amazing guest who's coming on to talk about how women can achieve financial independence. I'm talking about Desha Kennedy, the broke black girl whose story will inspire you of how she achieved financial independence. So hang on for a moment and let me grab Desha. I see Desha has joined and she should be on. Here
Good
we go.
morning.
Good morning, Queen. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great. Happy Women's History Month.
Thank you. Same to you. I'm excited.
Me too, me too. So let's jump right in it. I really want people to know about your story to understand why you're the best person to talk today. And so a few things about you. You guys, Desha grew up she grew up in the Lou in St. Louis,
Yes.
right? Midwestern, hey.
Yes.
And you have over a decade of experience as an accountant and a default counselor. Um,
Yes.
and so, like many people in that industry, in my industry, in general, we might work in these areas, but we may not always apply these to our lives every single day,
Right.
until we do though. And so tell us though, how did you grow up relating to money back in St. Louis? Were money conversations normal in your household?
No, it wasn't. I came from teen parents. So my parents, they spent most of my early life really trying to get it together. So I didn't learn about money in the household. It wasn't until I was a teenager on the brink of adulthood that money even really became a thing to me. And so I started my finance career at 19. And so here I am, 19, fresh out of high school. I was used to getting my paycheck, spending it, asking my mom for money. I had no concept of like money management or preparing for the future. So as I'm 19 and I'm going into the finance industry and I'm hearing all of these financial terms and I'm being introduced to these financial practices for the first time, my mind was blown and I was intrigued to learn more because it was things that I had never heard of. So although I didn't grow up learning about finances, I learned about it at the same time as I was growing into the career of it.
Mm-hmm. And that was great because you got a chance to get a front row seat at it,
Yes.
to understand how funds are managed and things like that. And so tell me about when it started to sink into your mind that, all right, this can help me really manage my life better too, not
Right.
just my money.
So I would say in this career, I was 19. So I'm like the youngest person in the office. And I heard a woman mention that she was going through some type of financial hardship and she was gonna pull money from her 401k to help her. And I'm like, what? How do you do that? Where is that money going to come from? I had never heard of this. So that was the first time that I'm like, there's things that you can do now to prepare for the future and use that money to help you when you need it. And so I went down a rabbit hole. So I'm looking up different financial practices that I can use and the things that I was learning in the office, trying to apply them to my life. So the first time was when I was hearing that people did work 20 years ago that they were now benefiting from. At the time it was like 40, they were 40 and 50. So here I am, 19. That was the perfect time for me to hear things like that.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And with that information, um, I'm curious to know the first thing that you did after that to apply to your life. Was it, let me sign up for my 401k match or program at work, or was it something like, I don't know, let me go try to understand other investments?
Yes, so even then, so this goes to speak to my age and my mind at that time. Even then, although I heard what that a 401k could be beneficial, what I thought was I don't want to give up money out of my paycheck. Like that, I was young, so I'm like, I don't want to give up
You were
money out of.
19. Hey.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to give up money out of my paycheck to go to anything. I wanted all of my money to myself. So the first thing that I did at that time was I really started to look at how I was spending money, why I was spending money, what were some of my practices, how could I save money. So I tried to learn little by little, but it was a competition between where I was mentally versus what I was learning professionally.
Yep, and it's like the rest of you, or you had to catch up with yourself, kind of.
Yes.
The rest of you,
Yes.
your actions had to catch up with your intelligence because you were learning all the information. I love that analogy. And so, you've officially been helping women of color, Black women, transform their finances since 2017.
Yes.
I'm amazed at how large your community is. I just looked at the Facebook page and it's over 80,000 now.
Yes.
And what did 60,000 of that came in like the first year, I understand?
Yes. Yeah. It came in like, I want to say before the first year was over, it was like 60,000. Yes.
That's amazing. I mean, and so people in the comments are saying the same thing. And so tell us why women need financial independence. And you say regardless of their marital status, because we have stories about that as well.
Yes. So this first we have to consider what financial independence means for women. And we have to start framing this conversation, regardless of our relationship status, as a necessity for our survival as women. When we think of all of these stats and the disadvantages that exist simply because we are women. Women are paid less. Having children or being married increases job disruption because women are more likely to leave the workforce to care for their families. We have all of these different, and I hate to call them roadblocks because a lot of them are things that we welcome into our lives, but in reality, it is a roadblock that blocks us from being able to move forward and really build our finances. So for me, a woman experiencing financial independence is freedom, it's security, it's agency over her life, it's her ability to be able to make financial decisions without anyone standing in her way.
I love that you said agency over her life. I think
Yes.
a lot of us want to have agency over our life, want to have control, want to be able to, direct our lives in the best way possible
Yes.
and be able to pivot when we have to,
Yes.
which is not always that easy. And it's something that you experienced even in the past couple of years, which I'm so sorry about the ending of your marriage. But you turned around and turned that into a huge, amazing message to women. And
Yes.
so tell us just your thought process and how you've been cautioning women to get themselves financially independent when it came to your specific situation.
So when you think of women in marriage, especially right now, what normally happens is women take a back seat to finances. And there's a lot of conversations that happens around women in marriage. And we have to think of the social construct that exists as well that women combat against, where we are conditioned to believe that the men should be fully responsible for the finances and women are they compartmentalize their role in the finances where they may do the grocery shopping or the finances for the children and be completely left out of the investing, the building, the income. So for me, what I noticed very quickly into my marriage is I took the back seat to the finances. Although I was still bringing in income, I wasn't fully involved with the finances. I existed in like, well, I hope everything was okay. And then when the divorce happened, it completely disrupted a financial life that I didn't even know existed because I wasn't fully involved in it. So for me, regardless of the relationship status, I always encourage women to be involved in the finances and not simply to say, I don't trust my partner or it's a control issue. We have to look at stats as well. 90% of the time, we're going to outlive our partners. So at one point of our lives, we're going to be solely responsible for ourselves financially. I
Hmm.
don't want to wait until I'm 80 to finally figure out what it means to manage the household finances. I can position this as a conversation that I need to have with myself and then feel confident about having this conversation with my partner, because at one point or the other, I'm going to be solely financial for the finances of either our family or myself at some point.
What were some of the things you wish you would have known that you came out of the marriage and you did end up building yourself back in those areas? But what were some of the things that you wish you would have known or wish you would have done?
I wish I would have been more confident with advocating for myself. Simply just speaking up and initiating the conversations. There are so many stigmas that women have to face when it comes through kickstarting conversations about finances. You don't want to come off quote unquote like a gold digger. You don't want to come off like I'm just after the money. And it's all of those conversations that we will ignore having the conversations, even though we know that it should happen. So for me, I wish that I would have been more confident to say, this is what I would like to see with the household finances. These are some of the dreams that I have. This is even some of the things that I know works because I work in finance. But even with me having all of that knowledge, it was still the social construct of marriage, a lot of the roadblocks that exist that prevented me from having those conversations. So for me, there's a lot of financial methods that I'm sure I would have liked to do, but the biggest thing was I did not have the confidence. I wish that there was someone like me that existed that would have helped me feel empowered and confident to initiate so many important financial conversations.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And one of the things you say is that obviously this conversation starts while dating and maybe even
Yes.
just while friends before dating. You know what I mean? Do you have any kind of advice on how women can initiate this conversation?
Yeah, yeah. So normally what you will see, one of the most common questions people will encourage someone to ask is, "Are you a spender or a saver?" No, I don't agree with that question because
No?
it can go either way. Because of course people are going to say, "Oh, I'm a saver," because naturally people think that they are saving
They
money.
do. And they
Yes,
think that's the right thing to say too.
yes, but in reality, that's not the case. So there's very subtle ways that you can figure out a person's relationship with money, because while dating, that really is what matters. What's their relationship with money? So a question that will be good was, what was your experience like with finances growing up? This the very opening question that you asked me. Did you
Yeah.
talk about money, growing up with your family? All of those things, those are small questions, but they really do shape someone's view on finances. And one of my go-to questions is, how do you feel about women that are financially independent? That's a to me that's a determining factor if we're even going to keep dating or not, because those are real questions. So there's very subtle ways that you can introduce financial conversations while dating.
And then you get a chance to understand what's their definition of financial independence as well, like you talked about earlier. So I love that. Let's see, someone just gave a comment. They said simply to improve your relationship, and sometimes you'll learn that even though your partner may be making sure things are taken care of in the house, there are room for places to grow.
Yes.
Absolutely agree there. That's why I had a couple on a few weeks ago, Angie and RJ Muhammad, who said,
Yes, I
talk
love
about
them.
money often. I love them too.
Yes.
They said, talk about money often. They talked about money a lot. And, not to sound like a money hungry kind of couple, but I mean, let's be real. Money is the way that things move.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
way that we can reach our dreams together, and the way that we, can plan our families and, plan retirement and everything else. And so it has to be a regular part of the conversation. Women don't have the choice. And specifically because also when it comes to women who do go through divorce, you
Yes.
posted a stat that said the poverty rate for women post divorce is 27%, and that's nearly triple the figure for men. And I would believe that has a lot to do with the load and the life expectancy that you
Yes.
talked about earlier.
Yes. So one of the things that we have to consider post-divorce for women, especially a woman who has not been involved in the household finances, or gave up her source of income to be in the household, her expenses is going to shoot up way faster than her income is. And then you have a large portion of the income leaving out of the household. And so one of the things that I talk to my community about is the gray area in between divorce. So you initiate the divorce, and before the divorce is final, this is where the problem lies, because in the middle, there's no one ordered to help you financially. So you have to figure out what's happening in the middle, and that's when you start to see increases. The expenses are going to go up because now you probably was once 50% responsible for things. Now you are 100% responsible for things. So the poverty rate goes up, expenses goes up, income goes down. So much happens in that in-between stage that it's not just get married, get divorced. It's the surviving financially in the middle that's very important.
And court costs and lawyer fees and
Yes,
everything else that comes with it, and having to move, you
yes,
know, having to buy another, set of furniture if you have to do that. I would imagine it's just, a lot more that your emergency fund may not cover,
yes,
but that's one thing, though, that I know you teach your community about emergency funds. I saw last year a conversation you had with Janice Torres Rodriguez about prenuptial agreements as well.
yes,
And so, but for all women right now, regardless of their marital status, you said the first thing is to get educated, of course, about
yes.
money, and tell us more of your wisdom, more of the jewels that you want to drop about achieving financial independence for women, like how they can do that.
Yes, absolutely. So at first, of course, the first thing that you want to do is get involved. You want to be educated. There's tons of free resources and communities like mine that you can join to learn more about financial literacy, money management. That's the first thing. The second thing that you want to do is you want to have goals. What are your financial goals? What are you working towards? Because sometimes we will say, I want to make more money. You want to make more money to do what? For what? So having clear cut goals across the board is definitely key. So this is something that I'm sure a lot of people hear a lot. And I think budgets don't get the love that they should. And it may seem simple, but it's so real. If it wasn't for me creating a budget post-divorce, I don't know how I would have made it. But a budget is not just crunching numbers. It's you really getting an understanding of your spending habits. How are you spending money? Why are you spending money? Where is your income coming from? What type of expenses do you have? And just really sitting down and getting involved in it. And also keep in mind, being financially independent does not mean you have to have millions of dollars. Of course, I wish big money on all women because I want to see that for them.
I
Really
receive it.
Yes, I want to see that, but I also say that you don't have to be discouraged if you don't have that. You can start your financial independent journey no matter where you are. It's you starting with a decision that this is something that I want for myself. So I think just getting involved and getting started is key. And I encourage all women, do not take the back seat to your finances, regardless of your relationship status. You want to be in the driver's seat. You want to be able to see what's ahead of you, what's happening, set some goals, put a financial plan in place. And even speaking with a financial plan, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you don't know it, you don't know it. Ask the question. It doesn't matter if you think that it's silly. It doesn't matter if you feel like it's redundant. And it doesn't matter if you even use the wrong words when you ask it. Ask the question. There are safe communities available that are willing to get in and help you.
Yes, yes. Agree 100% on everything you say. Ask the questions that you don't, I don't like saying dumb questions, but people say that all the time. Ask those questions.
Yes.
Because, it might unlock all kinds of wisdom. It will.
Yes.
It'll make you smarter. Speaking of unlock, you are also an author. You wrote a book, Unlocking Your Money Mindset. And so tell us what the single most important thing, when people read your book, when they go to your website to buy your book,
Yes.
what's the single most important thing that you want them to walk away with?
The single most important thing that I want people to walk away with is knowing that there is a shift that goes from not having money to having money, not having money to wanting money. And in that middle, you are not crazy. You are not wrong. That is a real experience that you are having. And there is a shift that is going to take place that you need to be comfortable with sitting in. So with unlocking the money mindset is believing that the things that you want, that it is achievable. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone else's timeline. You don't have to use someone else's journey. Unlocking your money mindset is saying, this is something that I desire for myself, that it is okay for me to be financially free. It is okay for me to welcome money into my life. It is okay for me to grow past some of the things that I experienced financially, and just opening your mind up to those things. Because in the beginning of my journey, as you see, when I was 19, I was getting the information, but in my mind, I felt like I don't want to give my money up. I want all of my money to myself. And it was my mindset, at a young mind, an immature mind, not really aware of financial education, that made me feel that way. So unlocking your money mindset is shifting it from I don't want or I don't have to welcoming everything that you can have.
Love it, love it, love it. And I think that's a great place to leave it. Hey, folks, listen, Desha has a treasure trove of information on her links on her Instagram page.
Yes.
So please go and check it out. You've got, a budget bestie, you've got spreadsheets,
Yes.
templates, you've got all kinds of things. And the community, which is on Facebook, the Broke Black Girl community. Make sure you guys check that out as well. And Desha, it's been an absolute pleasure. I would love to have you back on one day to talk about, we didn't talk about your kids and how you teach them about money, because that's how we can really start all of this that we talked about today. So I have to have you back on to talk about that one day, and anything else you'll start out. Absolutely. So folks, have a lovely day. Thank you, Desha. Enjoy.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Okay.